Hello. First go to select subject, and now the Photoshop is making the automatic selection, and we're going to refine the selection. Go to select and mask, and the view is set on white. I'll increase the opacity. I'll zoom in using Ctrl plus on the keyboard, and with the quick selection tool selected, I'll drag around here to add some of this area and also some of this in this area that's missing from the neck. This was too much, so hold the Alt key if necessary to subtract from the selection. You can select the refine brush tool and this is my hardness and size. When you right click, you can adjust it. I'll make it a little bit smaller, and I'll carefully drag around the edges to refine the details of the hair and the beard. Also here, hold the Alt key. If some of the background starts to appear, like here and here, and just click and drag to subtract it. In this area here, I lost some of the eye, so I'll use the quick selection to quickly get it back, like so. And I'll also use the brush tool to get back this tiny area here. And I'll quickly look around the rest of the body to see whether I need to adjust something. So the area around the hand here, I'll use the refine edge brush again, and I'll carefully paint around the edge, like so. Now it starts to look better. Also here, like so. And I'll also use the brush tool to quickly restore some of the missing parts around the edges, like so. Maybe use less hardness. Hold the Alt key if necessary to adjust and subtract. Throw 0 to get back to your initial view. Here below the beard, using the brush tool again, I'll get rid of these spots that I don't need. And I'll carefully adjust this area of the neck. Zoom out a bit. And refine this area here with the refine brush tool. Again, using the Alt key when necessary. I think let's drop down the opacity. I don't. So this area here, I'll use the quick selection brush to get it back. And I'll use the same tool to subtract from the edge like so. Drop down the opacity so this area here is missing as well. And I'll again use the quick selection tool to get it back. Ctrl+0 to see everything. Increase the opacity again. And this is not perfect, but I think it's good enough. Only the neck here again looks a bit weird. So use the quick selection tool again here. Zoom out again. This is not too bad. I'll add some contrast by increasing the contrast like so, which will also clean things around the edges. Maybe careful to not add too much contrast. We need some softness, so maybe 16% or so is good. I'll go to my output and I'll choose new layer with layer mask and I'll hit OK. I'll go to my folder with my photos and I'll drag in Photoshop my second image. Get back to my first document and I'll drag my layer with the move tool to the new document like so. I'll close my first document and you can see this line appears. I'll get rid of it soon. First I'll hit Ctrl+T and I'll resize my subject like so. I'll right click and choose flip horizontal and I'll zoom in. I'll adjust the position to something I like. And maybe it needs to be a little bit smaller. click here to place it. And now I need to get rid of those black lines. So I'll take my brush tool, I'll increase the hardness to 100%. I'll select the layer mask and make sure to paint with black. Hit D and X if necessary. And when painting with black, remove this black line here and also here. Make the brush bigger to make sure the line is erased. And I will also paint to remove it from the top. I'll select my crop tool and I'll just crop my photo something like this. If I need to adjust the position of the giant, then I'll uncheck this so that I can adjust it later without losing parts of the image. I'll click here, commit the transformation. And now if I hit Ctrl+T, I can adjust the position and the size. To whatever I like. Something like this. Looks good to me. I'll click here. I'll add a levels adjustment layer. I'll drag the middle slider to the left. I'll click here so that it only affects my giant layer. Let's rename it to giant. I'll get back to my levels and I'll also increase the darkness by moving the left slider to the right. And I'll also increase the whites a bit. I think if you zoom in, you can see a dark edge around the edges of the giant, especially here around the face. And I'm gonna fix it by first Ctrl+click to load my selection. Second, I'll go to select, modify, contract, and I'll choose contract by 1 pixels. I'll hit OK. I'll select my giant layer and I'll hit Ctrl+J to duplicate the selection to a new layer and click on this little icon on the left of my giant layer to hide it. Now my new giant layer, giant 1, I'll rename it to giant 1. Now here you can see the difference. We got rid of this Y. And I'll hit Ctrl+J to duplicate it. and change the blending mode to multiply and drag it below. So this brings back some of what I lost, and also I got rid of this black line that we had before. Now let's zoom out. You can hit Ctrl+0 for an automatic zoom out. And I can see I have a little bit of problem here around the hand. I'll put my two giant layers in a group. Ctrl+G. I'll add a layer mask to the group. I'll pick my brush, and with the hardness set to 20%, I'll paint with black around this area here that I don't like, and here I'll make my brush smaller, zoom in, and make the necessary adjustments. I'll also take a look at the other hand and also adjust it like so. We can set the blending mode to overlay and try painting around again. I'll hit Ctrl+0 again. I for the eyedropper tool, and I'll select my background layer and pick a color from it. It should look something like this. I'll select my group that I created and I'll rename it to Giant. I'll delete my initial giant layer because I don't need it right now. I'll select my giant group layer and I'll create a new layer at the top of it. I'll change the blending mode to color and I'll just hit Alt plus backspace. To fill it with the new color. I'll hold the Alt key and click in between the two layers to make sure it only affects my giant group layer. And I'll just drop down the opacity. This is before and after. And it can either be on set to color, and you can adjust your levels, but I'll set it to overlay, which gives it a better looking effect with more contrast. And I'll hit Ctrl+J to duplicate this layer with the color. And this time I'll set the blending mode to color and I'll reduce the opacity. I think 12% looks nice. Now it affects the entire image. And I'll also select my giant group layer. I'll create a new levels adjustment layer. And I'll increase the darks a little bit and also the whites. I think I need some more colors to my image, so I'll select my top layer and I'll add a hue saturation layer at the top, and I'll just increase the saturation like so. And I think I also need more contrast, so I'll select this levels adjustment layer and darken everything like so. And make everything a bit lighter like so. I think that the greens are too intense, so I'll get back to my hue saturation, and here where it says master, I'll choose greens, and I'll just drag this slider to the left to reduce the green saturation. I'll get back to masters. That's fine. Let's go to yellows and also reduce the yellows. Now things look better. And I need to add some extra details. I very often use this technique. I'll create a blank layer at the top. I'll go to image, apply image, and hit OK. I'll go to filter, add a high pass, reduce the radius here to, let's see, okay, 2.5. I'll hit OK, and I'll set the blending mode to hard light. And this gives me really nice details. I'll drop down the opacity to 70%. And now I think this looks quite nice. I only don't like this area of the hair around here. So I'll select my giant layer, and it has a layer mask to the group. I'll select it. And I'll just paint with black. This is my hardness and size with the brush. But we set the blending mode to overlay for the brush, so set it back to normal. I'll increase the brush hardness now to around 70%. And I'll paint like so. But our details, I also need to adjust it. I'll add layer mask to my top layer, and I'll also remove parts from it like so.